Hi guys, this is part 4 of the K-Bar heavy duty Warthog. Put this remote back in there. So this is basically the final part. This is going to be my conclusions and as I always do on knife reviews, the pros and cons. So for the people that know me or watch the channel, I normally only do reviews on knives that I like. So it's probably going to be no secret that the reason why I'm doing this is because I like the K-Bar heavy duty, because I do. However, it's not perfect, and I'll explain my reasons for it. These cups are amazing, by the way. Foldable cups, made in Sweden by, is it Wildo, if I pronounce that right. Wildo, I don't know. But anyway, so K-Bar heavy duty Warthog. Okay, so quickly let's run through the specs. I'm a bit weird. People usually do the specs before you actually start the video, but me being me, I forgot. So I'll quickly run the specs over to you now. So blade length, I ain't got a piece of paper with me, so I'm just going at the top of my head. I may be wrong. So blade length, roughly about 6, maybe just over 6 inches, maybe 6 1/4, something like that. It is full tang. I've actually seen one of these with the Kraton handle actually off. I think Wessex Blades did a video where a customer of his wanted this modified, so obviously he had to take the handle off, and underneath the handle was actually a full tang, quite a thick tang as well. So it is full tang, Kraton handle. Thickness, it varies really. It starts off from about 6 millimeters, where this thumb ramp is, and then it goes down to 5, 4, and then all the way to the tip. You're looking at about 3 millimeters there. So between 6 and 3 millimeters, I'd say, depending on which portion of the blade you're looking at, because it is an odd shape, the Warthog. You can see why they call it the Warthog. And it is a unique and unusual shape. Originally, I think they had it down as a flat grind. However, that can be a bit debatable, what I consider to be a flat grind. A flat grind to me is, as the name suggests, flat. However, you can see that it's just got a slight bevel to it, so it's not 100% flat. If you can see this here, and up here, so it's almost like a saber grind, a very shallow saber grind. So it's a cross, again, it's a cross between a flat grind and a saber grind. Obviously I've changed it, so the original grind was, let's say, flat grind / saber grind. But I changed the geometry slightly because I wasn't happy with the thickness behind that edge. I thought it was going to be a bit thinner, so obviously I changed it to like a mini Scandi / saber grind on the apex. As you can see from the video, it outperformed the original grind for me in every way. So it's quite a stout blade. It is heavy for a blade this size, but specifically this was designed for chopping, so naturally it is going to have some weight to it. A lot of K-Bar knives, the weight tends to go in the handle portion area. This one is slightly front heavy, so it's slightly blade heavy, not too much to be uncomfortable, but enough to give you that extra leverage, that extra power that you need when chopping. because all chopping blades need to be slightly heavy at the front, so you can deliver a really powerful blow. So it's slightly front heavy, top heavy, front heavy, blade heavy, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to get closer to the camera without cutting my head off. So again, close up, you can see the shape, the very unusual shape of the Warthog. So we've got it's model 1278 Taiwan, and then K-bar. As I said in the first video, obviously, like a lot of well-known knife companies, a lot of their knives, or even steel, is either made in Taiwan or China, and K-bar is no different. They have got factories in Taiwan, which is where this was made. But it doesn't mean that it's going to be a rubbish knife just because it's made in Taiwan or China. And the demonstration today I've done with this knife obviously proves it, and that's because although it's made in Taiwan, the quality control of K-bar is still there. So, and as far as the heat treat is still there. Attention to detail is still there, as it's in all K-bar knives. And so we've got like I think this is Kraton. K-bar uses a lot of Kraton in their handles, bits from Ontario. So correct me if I'm wrong, but it looks like Kraton, it feels like Kraton. I'm doing a smell test because it's very weird, because a K-bar knife, especially a new knife, has a very unique smell. It's really hard to describe, but anyway, me being weird. It has got a lanyard hole there, so obviously you can really swing this about without slipping out of your hand. However, it has got that beak cut out there to stop your hand from slipping. In no way did I ever feel that this was going to fall out of my hand. It's really good grip because of the rubberized Kraton or whatever they made it out of. And obviously that beak there really lends itself to stop this from falling out your hands. But obviously you've got a hole there to put a lanyard through if need be for extra security. The shape is it's very unusual. There's not a lot of knives of this shape, but it works. And I'll tell you why it works. Compared to the Generation 1 K-bar was a lot smaller blade, it was a lot thinner blade, and it had a different geometry, different edge on it. It was a hollow grind in opposed to this flat kind of saber grind. And it's an excellent slicer, but I wouldn't put it to heavy use like I would this one. And all the things that was wrong with that one, they've addressed them issues and made this. So some of the problems that they had with the Generation 1 was you had a cross guard on both sides. Not too big, but it kind of ruined the performance a little bit. So you couldn't really get a good grip and really choke up on the blade on the Generation 1, on the Gen 1 compared to this. So obviously they've addressed that. They've taken the guard off this one, so that you can now put your thumb. So now you've got access to that thumb ramp there, which the Gen 1 version did have that thumb ramp there. But the guard, if you've seen my other videos on the Mark 1, the guard was sticking out on the first one, and it was really hard and uncomfortable at times to put your thumb on that thumb ramp over that guard. But obviously they've addressed that issue. They've took the guard off this one, and they've made a deeper choil here, this bit here. So, and when it comes to the shape of it, it's really amazing what they've done, because obviously you still got the thumb ramp there, and you've also got this kind of bit of a choil area there, so you can put your thumb there and really get close to do some fine work. Don't know why I'm doing this again, but so rather than before where it had the guard here and you really couldn't get close to it, but this one you can. So you've got your thumb ramp, you've got your choil area there that prevents your finger from slipping, so you don't need a guard there, and you can really choke up on this blade and get really close to it. And the balance is right, so when you are carving, the weight, you totally forget about the weight of the blade, so it's kind of perfect, the weight, so it's not too blade heavy, but it's you know, it's so well designed that you hardly notice it when you're doing delicate cuts, whereas other knives, heavy duty knives like this, it's just like one big chunk of carbon steel that is too heavy, too cumbersome. But this is designed relatively well for a lot of duties. I'm not saying it's perfect, because it wasn't. As I explained in the video, the grind was terrible when it first come in, when I first got this out of the box, but now, and obviously you can really, even up here, really use that blade here to do some delicate work. Love that crunching sound, you know, just something it couldn't do before. So yeah, definitely improvement over the old model, and especially the improvement I made on the edge geometry as well. So good chopper. It's good at batoning, despite it being relatively thin, not too thin, but thick enough to do the job, to do heavy duty chopping and batoning. And the reason why I like this design is because although it's relatively thin here, if you put it from the side, it kind of thickens out, so it's got a thicker shoulder here, which is what you really want when you're splitting wood. So you want the blade to be relatively thin here, but as you're batoning through the wood, you need the knife to thicken out. So it needs to be thin here, and as the wood is going further and further up the blade to this part, it's this part that's splitting the wood. Okay, so not here, it's here. So as soon as the wood is placed, the knife is placed in the wood, and it hits this shoulder bit here, it's splitting the wood a lot easier. Now if this was all the same thickness as stock as it is down here all the way along, as a flat grind usually is, then it wouldn't baton through wood as easily as this would. So that's why to be a good splitter you need that thick stock up here rather than down here. So they've really thought about this knife a lot more than they did on the Generation 1. Chopping, yeah, it performs good chopping. It performs even better now that I've changed the grind on it, because I felt that the original grind was it was kind of destroying the wood and totally demolishing the wood rather than actually chopping the wood. I like to have clean chopping bits on my wood, you know, clean cuts, rather than the wood that's just going to fragment. So this, it really does, and you can, when you chop this belly portion here, really aids in chopping. That buries itself really deep into the wood, which is what you want, which is what it's designed for. What else can I say about it? 1095 Crowvan steel, which is obviously what K-Bar is famous for, which can be a bit hit and miss on their heat treat at times, but they've got it spot on with this. It's took the abuse relatively well, and for a K-Bar, for 1095 Crowvan steel, it's held the edge quite nicely actually. Yes, it's not hair shaving sharp, but a lot of knives in this price range and this steel, it's not going to hold an edge for long if you're going to be doing any heavy duty chopping or batoning. But as long as it's easy to maintain in the field just by getting your strop out or your leather belt out, and you can put a razor sharp edge on this with just a few touch-ups with a strop. Obviously that's also a good heat treat. So yeah, I like the ergonomics. The handle's grippy, very long as well. I've got medium to large hands, not extra large, but as you can see how much stock is left on that handle, so plenty of room for chopping. I've seen people chop like this using the beak, like 2 fingers and 1 finger behind. You can do that, but I don't do that. That to me is not natural. It doesn't feel comfortable for me, so I just grip it like this as far back as I can get it, so all the weight is there, and it does a good job at doing that. Coating, you've got K-Bar's typical, I don't know if it's not traction coating, I think it's powder coating. That will wear off in time. I don't really like black coatings on my blades, so I'm not too sure if I'm going to take that off or not. I don't know yet. The spine, obviously I modded the spine. I've taken the coating off there, the last portion of the blade, so I can scrape bark or scrape a ferro rod if need be. But I did actually struggle to do that before I took the coating off. So you can strike a ferro with that coating on, but it takes ages to do, and by the time you do it, then your ferro rod is going to be ruined. Don't forget about my tea. I always waffle on and forget about my tea. So that's something that had to be addressed. Now then, we come to the sheath, which is where I kind of dulled the tip a bit, not through testing, but because of the sheath. I suppose it's my fault really. It's not really the design fault in the sheath, which is this one here. Don't fall, tripod. Okay, so this one here. So here's the sheath on the belt. So you've got it's made of nylon, and you've got this plastic area here to stop your blade from going through the nylon. It's got one very large belt loop there, so it can accommodate pretty much all belts. Obviously, like I say, you've got retaining strap. You've got one there, and you've got one further up that retains the handle. You've got an opening, wide opening there, so that you can drop the blade in from the front and just slide it in like so. And obviously, the retaining strap goes there, and obviously this retaining strap goes there like that, and it's pretty secure. I think the belt loop could have done with being a bit smaller, because it does tend to waggle about a bit, but it's well done. It seems to be well made. Fits it absolutely spot on. So what was the problem I had earlier? Well, I kind of forgot about something, because I'm not really used to having sheaths like this with a retaining strap here, and and an opening here so that you can get your knife out quite easily. I'm used to sheaths where I can just place it in the sheath like this rather than putting the blade in here. So what I did earlier is I was down there and I was chopping some wood, and when I got my knife out, for some reason, again because I'm not used to having these kind of sheaths, for some reason I undid this retaining strap first like this before this. So, and I forgot that I undid that first. So obviously when I did that and I was leaning over to get the wood, this slipped out the sheath like that, and although it landed in the soft mud, the tip did land quite awkward on a hard bit in the soil. I think there might have been a stone in there as well. So it's still sharp, it's not chipped, but it's just a minor roll where the tip, because it's stuck in the ground like this into the mud, but there is obviously a roll because of that, and it hit whatever was in the soil. So a word of warning, if you're thinking of getting this knife and the sheath, don't forget that when you undo that retaining strap down there and you undo this retaining strap up here, don't forget that this sheath has got an opening here so you can draw the knife out quite quickly. Otherwise the same thing could happen to you and the knife could quite easily fall out. It's good sheath, it does its job, but I think I'm used to top loading sheaths, so I'll probably get one made, or maybe even make one myself. I'm not too sure yet. So that's the only complaint I've got really on the sheath, and that's probably what I've got to say about the blade. So so do I recommend it? Hell yeah, I do recommend it, yeah. As everybody knows who's got one, they are very robust knives, very strong knives, and they are built for chopping. But for my purposes, I had to change that geometry, that edge geometry, and it's worked out for the best. So now I can carve with it, I can notch with it, as well as chop and baton with it as well, whereas before it was just a big heavy brute. And it wasn't really, compared to some of the videos that I've seen, I don't really rate it as a big chopper with the grind that it had on it before. Excuse me, burping again. So that was one thing I had to address, where it had to be improved. So so anybody that's got one, I would say I highly recommend changing that grind, because that apex there, that V-edge, for doing delicate tasks was way too thick, but now it's completely changed the knife, it really has, and you can still effectively baton with it, you can still effectively chop with it as well. So I made sure that I didn't take too much material off the edge. I still left enough to protect that edge when you're doing heavy chopping. So yeah, do I recommend this knife? Yeah, I do, yeah. With the modifications in place, it can be quite easily replace your bushcraft knife, no problem whatsoever. As a survival knife, yeah, definitely. Would I take this knife with me and nothing else? The modifications that I've done with it, yeah, absolutely. Like I say, still got one more modification to do, which I mentioned I think in part 2, is the one thing I didn't like about it is the gap. It's got a gap there, you can probably just see it. They've got a space between the handle, where the handle connects to the blade, and it's on both sides. It's okay here, it's really tight here, but it's not here. So moisture or wood, bits of wood chippings or anything can get inside this gap on both sides. And that's another thing that I'm going to address, and I'll probably get some heavy duty black epoxy and just fill these gaps up, and it should be perfect after that. But yeah, really impressed, really like it. And yeah, I think I'll continue to use it. And another thing as well, because it's quite thick, because it's quite wide, this blade, you can quite easily choke up on it as well, or even use it as a draw knife. I've not used it as a draw knife as of yet, so that's another thing I can try. But there's enough material there to grab hold of to do pretty much anything that you want, any angle that you want. And that's what makes this shape, this Warthog shape, very unique in what it can do. So yes, it's a big beefy knife, but it really lends itself to the design of it to be a good bushcraft knife as well. And I suppose now I think I prefer this to the Generation 1 because of the aesthetics, the geometry, the handle. There's no guard there, really choke up on it. It now slices as good as the Generation 1. So yeah, big improvement, massive improvement. And it's probably the first K-bar knife I've actually owned that I actually really like. I'm not a big fan of K-bars because I have kind of in the past broke 2. Yeah, I broke 2. Well, that's probably down to my abusive ways of what I used to be. And the knives, to be fair, the knives that did break wasn't really designed for heavy duty or batoning. They're really combat knives, if you like, not really survival knives. And they only had the stick tang as well. So, and that's where it failed. Stick tang was here, and I think one failed here, and the other, I think, was the K-bar Big Brother, failed here. The tip completely snapped off, but this one's held up fine. So really impressed with that. So yeah, recommend this knife, but I would recommend doing the modifications that I did. So remove the coating on here so you can strike a ferro rod, and shave bark off the sticks. And yeah, and probably I'll upgrade the sheath because I don't like that sheath. I think it's quite dangerous. It's more of a Golok or machete kind of sheath that has a top opening, and to me that's quite dangerous. You know, if you wasn't wearing like heavy duty boots or anything like that, then if it fell out the sheath and that landed straight in your foot, it'd be a hospital job, and that's why I don't like it. Not good for bushcraft. So the only thing that lets this down is the sheath. So I will be hunting around for a top loading sheath, maybe a leather one, or I might make one myself out of an old bits of leather that I've got knocking about. But yeah, so yeah, brilliant knife, and I think that's all I've got to say. So hope you enjoyed the 4-part videos. I do apologise, but I do really go in depth with my reviews on knives, because I want to show the person before they purchase it the pros and cons of it, and see the knife in use. I know there's hundreds of videos on the K-Bar Heavy Duty in use, but not a lot of people actually think about the bushcraft side of using the K-Bar Warthog. Now, a lot of videos is just down to batoning with it and chopping with it, but I want to see if it can work as a bushcraft knife, and at first it didn't, but now it does because of the mods I've done to it, so now I can use it as such. So that's why that was the purpose of these videos, to explain the modifications, how it made it better, and can you use it as a bushcraft knife, as well as a big brute 1095 piece of slab of steel. So I'll that's help you out in making a decision. And oh, price as well, I forgot to mention price. Right, so for a knife like that has done all the tasks that I've done with it today, and I got it on special offer, and it's under 100 quid. In fact, it's, when I got it, it's under £80, under 80 quid for a large slab of 1095 steel, full tang blade. So, you know, again, from a price point of view, it's spot on. It's, you know, it almost comes into Condor category. Now, I'm not saying all Condor knives are good, because some of them are rubbish, but some of them that I use, that I've kept, like the Condor Crutalis, it's a perfect knife, beautiful knife, very strong, and so it kind of comes into that price range. I think, including postage, when I had it on, and I got it in an Easter sale, I think it cost me about £72. You know, and £72 for a knife like that, what you're getting is absolute bargain. You know, I like budget things, like budget knives, and a lot of the things on this channel is about that, using budget knives, and they can be as good as high-end knives sometimes. So to try and find a knife within budget for under £100 is a win-win in my book. So yeah, so from a price point of view, absolute bargain, spot on. So I'm going to leave it there now and message my daughter back, because I think she's been messaging me for the past 10 minutes. So I'm going to leave it there, and thanks for watching again. Leave your comments down wherever you want, if it's part 1 or part 4, I'll leave that up to you. What have you got the same knife as me? What's your opinions? Have you changed or modded it, changed the grind? What you thought of it? What do you think of my video of me talking and never shutting up? So throw that in as well. So I'll leave it there. This is the Long Wanderer Bushcraft and Wild Camping and Reviews, signing off. Take care.